And hello everyone, I'm back with another flashlight review. Today I have one of the latest in the Baton series from our friends at Olight. And today I have the S2R Baton. Now, it wasn't that long ago, you can search back in some of my previous videos, that I reviewed the S1R in a couple of different flavors, if you will. That was both a cool white and a neutral white version. And again, that was the S1R, which uses one 16340 battery. But right now, we have the S2R, which is a bump up in size and battery because it takes an 18650. And of course, it's also brighter at 1020 lumens, and per Olight has a 5-year warranty as well. So it's a pretty nice little light. Now, some of you may say, if you're familiar with these videos and these lights, once you look at it, you may say it's the same as the S30R Baton. Now, I've also reviewed that one in the past, but it actually is a little bit bigger than this one. So this is smaller, although they both run on an 18650 battery, and I think without looking that the other one's around 1020 lumens as well. Might be a tad higher, but you won't notice any difference. But anyway, these are similar, and they all have a USB recharging system, but there are slight differences in the LED and so forth, and in this particular case this light is smaller than the S30R. So anyway, to move along with this particular review, as you can see on the box here, you get some bits of information, including the fact that it's waterproof to IPX8, so it's submersible to 2 meters. The beam distance is about 153 meters, and it'll stay on for 60 days in moonlight mode, and it's also impact resistant to 2 meters. So, and on the back, you do have some basic information, including the modes of the light. So if you can take a look at this here, you have 0.5 on moonlight, and 12 lumens on low, 120 on medium, 500 on high, and 1020 on turbo. Now, the only thing about the turbo is on these Baton lights is it doesn't stay in turbo very long. It's less than 5 minutes. It actually says here 2 minutes. So once the little timer goes off inside on the turbo mode, it'll bump down to high. And of course you can turn it back up to turbo, but the thing I found is that you know, once the battery voltage starts to drop, it won't support turbo mode for all that long. So anyway, but that's just the way it is. But it does have turbo mode. It is a good brightness for even if a short period of time. It does come with the battery, and the battery it comes with is this one right here, which is the 3.6 volt 18650 3200 milliamp hour Olight battery, and this comes at about 3.6 volts. At least that's the way mine arrived. And at that time, and at least at that voltage, although the flashlight will work, obviously, it did not have enough voltage to cover turbo, so I couldn't even make it go to turbo mode when it arrived. I had to charge the battery first. So just to keep that in mind, as I said before, as the battery voltage starts to drop, it may not even support turbo mode. So anyway, just use that with a grain of salt. So inside the packaging, you do get a lot of stuff here, or at least a fair amount of things, and I'm not going through the whole unpackaging of it because there is a fair amount to mention on this light, so I'm not going to take the time to do that. It is rather an intricate package the way they're packaged up, and they've done this with all the Baton series. This little box sits at the base of the package inside. It holds the flashlight in this little base right here, and you also have the user manual, which is stuffed in there, and you also have this little well, faux, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, it's this little brown pouch, so that's just one way of carrying it. The light also has a pocket clip that's already attached, and also inside this little black box is not a voice recorder, but you get the USB charging magnet, which is right here. And see, that's magnetic right there. And you also get an adjustable lanyard, and here's that right here. So a couple of different ways to carry the light. Here is the light. It's just a tad over 4 inches long. So as I said before, it's smaller than the S30R, and it also has a smaller head on it, a smaller bezel. And it has the one switch on here which does everything, and here is the magnetic base which the USB attaches to, just like that, and then it charges. I'll plug that in for you in a second and show you that. And this is a good strong magnet too. I mean, all the batons have a magnetic bottom, so you can of course use it for charging, and you can also use it to affix to something magnetic and use it as a work light, you know. Couple of things to mention about the battery. Now, they give you the battery right here, so there's no reason not to use any other kind of 18650 in the light since they give you this. However, if you do want to use a different kind of 18650, it's very fussy, and I have found that a number of batteries I have will not work in this light, namely flat tops. This battery has a little bit of a button top here, and it will work fine, obviously, with the battery they gave you, but it, as I'm starting to say, it will not work with flat tops, and I have several of them. And it also, I mean, the battery length to this is very important. And I say that in a sense, well, I don't know. Let me back up a second. Okay, what I have inside the light here right now are two Olight 16340s, rechargeables, not CR123 disposables, but 16340 rechargeables. That's what I have in here now. So two of these will work as well, as will CR123s. It'll also take 18350s, but again, even with this size, I haven't found many that will fit. These fit fine and they work. I haven't found any of my 18350s that will work. Not because it's the wrong size, it's just because they're too long inside the light and they stick out too far from the back and the cap won't close. And you see, in the tail cap, you have this little portion here, as you do with all the batons that use the rechargeable on the base. The batteries go in backwards. The batteries go in with the positive end at the bottom, unlike most that have the positive end at the top. So it needs the positive end at the bottom to connect to the little dome here within the tail cap. And that's where you're having a problem with the flat tops, because they just don't get past this little ring here and make contact with the dome. So that's why the flat tops won't work. They have to have a button top in order to make the contact in there. But what I was going to start to say too is that with the 18650 that they give you, there is barely no difference between high mode and turbo, I hate to say. You go to high mode, then you double click to get to the turbo mode, and you barely see a bump up in brightness. But if you use these 16340s, you see a rather sizable bump up in brightness, which looks far more like turbo mode than it does when you use the 18650. In a lot of lights, it doesn't make any difference, even though these are 3.7 volts times 2, and this is 3.7 volts times 1. In a lot of lights, it doesn't make any difference. There's no difference in output between the 2 versus the 1. But in this light, there is, and it took me a while to figure that out. It is brighter with the two 16340s, but of course with two 16340s you can't use the charging system. The charging system will only work with one 18650. So there's your, I don't know, whatever you want to call that, there it is. There's your sacrifice, or whatever, if you will. So take that with what you use to decide upon whether this light is the right kind of light for you, or to give to someone as a gift or whatever. But that's just the way it goes. Inside the tube here, I don't think there is too much to see. Just the top part in there. Is there a spring up in there? A little hard for me to tell even too, because I haven't really looked. Yes, there is a little spring up in there. So anyway, so let me take two batteries here. I'm not going to show it to you with the 18650. However, well, I am going to do that with the charging portion of it. So let me put the 18650 in, and then I'll show you the charging aspect of the base here. Where did I put the tail cap? Oh, here it is. Okay, so here's the battery it comes with. And of course all you do is take the base and stick it on there, and then plug the other end into a USB source, which I will do right here. I've got a USB wall adapter. Oops, you know, there's something that I forgot to do. Something rather important, actually. I forgot to plug that in. And sorry about that. But it'll only take me a second if you don't mind waiting. I'm still right here. I just have to plug this in. Sorry about that. Because I can't fit that in. Okay. Terribly sorry about the wait. And I'm unable to edit this video, so it'll just have to stay the way it is. Okay, so we have all this plugged in. Okay, it is now charging because the tail part is red, and that's how you know that the 18650 is charging. When the charging finishes, this turns green, so that's fairly simple. And if you put a different kind of 18650 in here other than the Olight battery that it comes with, this won't work. It stays green the whole time. So that's how you know if the 18650 you have is going to charge in here. Because if you know that it's low in voltage and you plug it in and this is green, then it's not going to work. It has to be red, obviously, to be charging, because if I take it off, then it automatically turns green. So it's green all the time as soon as you plug it in, and then as soon as you connect it and the battery starts charging, it turns to red. So there's your charging portion of the light. All right. Let me go to the two 16340s. Okay, now one button press turns it on, which is nice. In order to change modes, you have to press and hold the switch. We are right now on, medium mode, I believe. Okay, now we're on low mode. So this is low. And this is a nice beam. I haven't even told you yet that this is an XML2 LED. And just like its smaller sibling, the S1R, which has the same LED, I believe, the beam is very nice. It's rather wide, and it does not have quite the projection of some of the other more recent lights that use an XBL LED and have a deep reflector, because this reflector is not very deep, it's quite shallow. So that's why the beam distance is less than 200 meters. But it is a nice beam, and it's very uniform, but it's quite large. So you may appreciate that in certain circumstances. So here we are in low. If I click it and hold it, I get to medium, and then hold it again, and then I get to high. So here we are in high mode. One moment please while I turn this other light off. So we're in high mode right now. Now if I double click, I will get to turbo mode. Oh yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention is this, the button here actually illuminates a little bit, if you can see that. So that's one way of being able to find the button in the dark. Sometimes you can't find the buttons in the dark of these lights because there's no illumination of any kind on the button. But this one, as you can see here, if you can see that, it actually lights up a little bit. and I'm not sure if it's really supposed to, because when you go down to low, it sort of almost goes off. So only as you come up in output to medium and high can you actually see this this little light, or this little illumination underneath the button. But I think it's kind of neat. Anyway, we are in high mode right now, and as I started to say, to get to turbo, you have to double click. So there we go. There's the bump up to turbo, which is much more noticeable with these two batteries than it is with an 18650. Now if I press it again, I simply turn it off. That's what happens if you press it once, you just turn it off. Then if I turn it on again, memory will remember the last mode, but it won't remember turbo. So when I turn it back on, it's now back in high. So to double click, let me go to the white wall over here, double click, there's the bump, I'm now back up to turbo again. And if I press and hold it, then I'll go down to low. And then pressing and holding again just keeps cycling through all the modes. It also has moonlight mode, and the only way to get to moonlight is with the light being in the off position, so I have to turn it off, and then I have to press and hold for a second or two, and then it comes on in moonlight. So here we are in moonlight mode, which is very, very low. It's less than a lumen, less than 1 lumen. So in, you know, in very close-up work in the dark, it's very handy. Almost can't even see where it's pointing at here with the camera. At 3 feet away, it's almost, you know, it's so low that even for that distance you really can't see anything, at least not with a camera. But moonlight mode is pretty good for up close work. So this is moonlight, and then if I press and hold again, it just goes back up to low. And it also has a strobe mode. That is the only flashing mode it has. It doesn't have SOS or location beacon. Strobe is the only one it has, and to get to strobe you have to triple click, and you can do that from either the off position or while it's on. So triple click, and there we are in strobe. And if I press and hold it, it'll go back to the mode it was in previously, or triple click. Okay, now it's playing a little game with me. Okay, we're in strobe, so if I just press it once, it turns itself off. But again, if I'm in strobe already, okay, now it's back in strobe, and if I press and hold, it goes back to the last mode it was in via memory. So those are the basic modes of the flashlight, and forgot if I was going to say something very important there about the last remark, but let me turn this off for a second so we can look at the, sorry about that, look at the LED there, which you really can't see because it's sort of behind this this kind of almost like an spheric lens here, which gives it that which gives the beam that wider look to it, which I think is kind of nice. I was very surprised about this beam, which is the same as on the S1R, and I liked it very much, and so it is the same system that they use on this one. But it is a nice light. It's small, it's compact, it has the magnetic recharging, but just you know, take the information I gave you before and use it to your best advantage as far as the battery is concerned. If I had changed these CR123s out and showed you the output between high and turbo with the 18650, you'd see what I mean, because there's barely no jump at all with the 18650. So unfortunately the brightest mode is with the 16340s, and I imagine, I haven't tested it with a couple of disposable CR123s, but I would imagine that it's not going to be much different. At least you're still going to get the higher brightness with two CR123s as well. But anyway, that's the Olight. You can pick it up on Amazon. There is a link below where you can check it out there and buy one if you like. You can also visit my website at lightsandgear.com, because I have more information on the flashlight there, as well as my outdoor beam shots in turbo mode, and so forth, so you can look at those on my Lights and Gear page, the Olight S2R page in Lights and Gear, and the link is in the description above, so you can look at that there and also pick one up with the purchase link as well. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you very much, and thanks for watching the S2R. We'll see you next time.